Well, hello my beautiful and amazing crafters. Welcome to another video of crafting with Shaneda. In today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how you can make your very own Uno themed centerpieces right in Cricut Design Space. So before I got started with this design, I went over to Google and brought in a Uno logo image and removed the background. So that way I can kind of match the colors and the numbers as close as possible to my design. So I brought in a shape. I brought in the rounded rectangle and an oval shape just to mirror the Uno card that I got off of Google. Now this design will be for personal use. Whenever using any commercial licensing, you want to make sure that you're using it for personal use unless you have the rights to use it for commercial and selling. So I'm going to align that oval shape right on that rounded rectangle. And this will be just my template guide to use for additional cards that I'm going to make. The great thing about designing your own template is that you can personalize it and customize it the way you like. So I'm going to go into Google again and I'm going to look for a background that I'll use for my template. I'm looking for a deck of cards that are kind of just thrown around sporadically, and this will work perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and save this image and bring it into Cricut Design Space. So I wanted to try to mirror the actual Uno font that's on the playing cards. So I just researched what the actual Uno font is. My results showed that it is the grotesque font. So I went over to Creative Fabrica and I was able to find a similar font that I can install into Cricut Design Space. I will have a link in the description box below if you want to check out Creative Fabrica. Great way to find commercial licensed fonts and images and graphics and classes as well. So while I was installing, I went ahead and uploaded the font into Canva, just that way I could take a look and see how it would look. The way that this particular font presents is that it's going to change the background if you want to change the background color. So I decided not to use this particular font for this design. So I went ahead and used the Bernard font. Like I mentioned earlier, when creating your own design, you can definitely personalize it the way you like. I wanted to use the first letter of the person's name that I'm making this for, but I just decided to go ahead with the numbers, and I'll show you how I created the numbers now. So I went ahead and sized it to the template that I already created, and I duplicated that number 2 and changed the color and I changed the color to white, and I went ahead and grouped the design so that way I can change it later on in the design process and begin to finalize my template. So now that I have the template made, I could go ahead and just change out the colors and keep going until I finished all the decks to my desired look. So now that I have all the deck of cards all designed, it's time to get ready to start designing the actual centerpiece. So I want this to be about 5 inches. So I'm going to bring in a circle, and then I want to bring in another circle and just size it just a little bit smaller. And this is where I'm going to bring in that background that I uploaded earlier into Cricut Design Space. And this would be the portion that I print and cut. Now I want to create a little border around the centerpiece circle. So I'm going to bring in another circle, and this time instead of doing an outer offset, I'm going to do an inner offset and slice that. So that will go right on top, and then I'm going to make another circle to go in the middle. Now I'm going to arrange my deck of cards. And again, I wanted to do the letter of the person's name, but I ended up changing it to numbers. So I just went back in and just updated and swapped out the letters for numbers. So I went ahead and did an offset over the deck of cards, and I made sure to change the offset to a basic cut, so that way I could just remove any and hide any shapes or contours, so it's a nice clean cut. So now I want to work on the middle section of my centerpiece. So I'm going to bring in another oval and change the color, and then I'll put my message in the middle of that design. I'm still following that same concept, using my font and just shifting a little bit to make that shadow effect. And I had this banner that I purchased in Cricut Design Space a long time ago. So I brought the banner in and made a slight offset and put a message in the middle of the banner. So I designed the wild card, and I thought I was recording this whole time, and I realized that I wasn't recording, so I'm just going to show you again how I designed the wild card. So what I did is I brought in an oval, and then I brought in a square just so that way I can slice the oval in half. So without moving any of the oval sections, I'm just going to remove the slice portion and hide the portion that I don't want to cut. And now it's 2 separate halves, and I'm going to do that again. Bring in another square, so that way I can slice it so I can have 4 separate sections. So again, I'm going to hide the sections that I'm not going to slice, because I'm only able to slice 2 items at one time. And then just remove my slice pieces. And then go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and add the colors to each section. And now that I like the way everything looks, I'm gonna go ahead and print everything out and start assembling the centerpiece. Now when I first did the centerpiece, I did it about 5 inches, but then I went back in and made it a little bit larger, 6.5 I believe. And I'm just using a combination of foam strips and foam dots to create that 3D effect. For the paper that I used, for the glossy paper I used for the design element, it is the Pretty Party paper. I'll have a link in the description box below. I really enjoy using this glossy paper for my projects. And I just want to take a moment to thank and welcome all my new subscribers. We're so happy to have you here at Crafting with Shaneda. And for those of you that have been watching the channel for a while, thank you for coming back and watching another video. I really like the way everything turned out. It looks great. Another great project to implement and design. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. I hope you learned a little bit or a lot, and we cannot wait to see you on the next video of Crafting with Shaneda. Happy crafting!